From Big Heart, Namatjira, created by Scott Rankin, 14th to the 17th of September.
I guess if I was to say to you that, Albert Namatjira was made a citizen, one of the first Indigenous people to be made a citizen, you'd go, that's great. But if I said that he was made a citizen because the government wanted to tax him because he was making so much money from his art, then it becomes a whole other question. And if I said that that decision to try and tax this man because he was making money led to an influx of grog to his community and to his, the tragedy of his demise, that adds another dimension. And then if I said, the reason he made a lot of money was that Queen Elizabeth, as this young queen coming to Australia, presented by the government with one of his works, she loved the picture, and suddenly they went up in value, and suddenly he's the first Indigenous man in Who's Who, etc.
We've part of the process. We did a couple of presentations out at Hermansburg and Alice Springs to commemorate, the great Albert Namatjira, in which we've had people who are in different visual arts out there be involved with us at the same time. We put up this presentation of what the show might be with their involvement, because it's their story, it's their relative story as well.
The thing about this story is that if you say it's the depressive demise of a painter because of alcohol and a death in his community, no one in Canberra is going to go, let's go out on a Thursday night when it's cold and see that. But if you say, you've got Derek Lynch and Trevor Jamieson singing, an amazing Barry White song that is hilarious to watch as Albert and Rubina, his wife, romance each other in the desert. Suddenly it becomes alive with comedy, and it becomes, alive with the visual world of the Namatjiras working on stage. And then, yes, we do pull into these poignant moments as we sort of examine what was happening in the middle of the 20th century when, forgive me for saying this, but when Trevor, was considered flora and fauna politically and, constitutionally. And so you can take an audience to a really, beautifully moving place and then bring them back out with this, kind of comedic and musical touch. And that's why I love, working with Trevor, because he's got this amazing facility to just go switch it on and switch it off, So when you enter the theatre, you're entering what is essentially a studio space. 4 artists working on stage. They are from the Namatjira family. They are creating a huge work out of chalk. And at the same time, there's another artist who is, often winning the Archibald People's Prize, and, he's painting prime ministers, etc. And he's doing a portrait right there in front of your eyes of Trevor playing Albert. So it's a dream team. Genevieve Lacey is playing with us, and she rushes off to play all over the world, taking a recorder everywhere, in huge demand, booked out for years. Don't know how we got her. Amazing. Robert Hannaford paints Prime Ministers and Governor-Generals. Fantastic. If you look at Nigel Levings and his career, he's one of the masters of lighting design in Australia. Jen Dugard, who's designed all our works, is this sculptural, beautiful, exquisite designer who's bringing that to the piece. And then Derek Lynch, who's a Yunkanjara man who, who's now been in 2 shows with us, who Trevor, we just love working with him. He's an absolute, delight on stage. The only problem is that he makes Trevor look bad, so what can you do? No, I'm joking. So it's a team that if you were setting out to pull the very best for this kind of show, unusual artists working together, and to cap it all off, we've got Kevin Namatjira on stage with us, with other grandchildren of Albert Namatjira. Magic.